All righty, everybody. How's Madam Clerk? How are you today?
Great.
Good. And Julie, you're here today. Are you learning the clerk work here? Or? Wow. Oh, is that what this is? This is an extra? So this is like live on demand? All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is KCITY Radio. This is the Arts, Parks, Health, and Aging Committee. And my name is Tom LaBonge. I'm joined with the great councilwoman of the 15th District, Janice Hahn, and we expect Miss Perry. If Miss Perry comes, she will join us to make 3 members of the committee. We have 7 items here, and let's see, could we have any consent items? No. Any continuation items?
Yes, the library item, which is
Item number 3
Continuing.
is a motion instructing the library to report on current literacy levels of Los Angeles residents and city employees.
We're continuing that?
Good, okay, good. And on that item too, could, we're going to continue that one, number 3.
Councilmember.
Okay, and then also on that too, Madam Clerk, as far as, it did state out for city employees on this, as far as its requests there. Check with
Correct.
the personnel department, see if they have any records too, to add to the information on that. Okay, so I want to check here. Let's start with number 7 and go backwards, okay?
Item number 7 is a report from the Department of Aging relative to various actions related to the Senior Community Service Employment Program budget and standard agreement with the state of California.
Good afternoon, Department of Aging, James Don. Before you is a routine request to accept the additional $180,440 for our Title V Senior Employment Training Program. The funds, about $140,000 will be used directly for our training stipends for our seniors. The balance of the $39,000 will be used for some part-time employees that we use to help make placements in our program. Actually, all 3 of them were former participants, so we're very proud of the fact that we identified some very capable seniors and we're taking advantage of it.
All right, now let me ask you a question.
Yes.
You know who used to work in the movie business? This was a scene for the Daily Planet, right?
Okay.
Okay, so James, Clark Kent walks through that door, he got his hat on, he takes it off, he comes up to you, he says, how many people have you helped? I know there's $128,000 here, but how many people in this program?
We actually are authorized for 241 seniors every year, but what we've learned and with our funders' approval is that we actually over-enroll. It increases our chances of making placement, which is how our performance is measured by our funder. So at the bare minimum, we're helping 241 seniors learn job skills to re-enter the workforce.
Great, okay. Ms. Hahn, any questions?
No, not today.
Okay, all right, James, when we go to council, check with your people in the field, see if there's someone who would want to articulate the success of this program, invite them into council. We may call it special just to hear, because it's so important to help people retrain and get a job. And everybody has a worth, but sometimes when they lose skills or training, they don't feel as good as they could. And if we get this and project it not only over the internet, I would have it done on the television for our Channel 35.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, forthwith on that one. Next
Thank you,
item.
sir.
Here's the person now.
Item number 1 is a motion.
No, 6, we're going 6.
We're going to go to 6.
I'm going backwards.
Item number 6 is a report from the Department of Aging relative to the fixed routes for the door-to-door transportation program.
Good, this is the item. Okay, good.
Where's Miss Taylor?
Hold on, James.
Oh, yeah.
Madam Clerk, you want us to hold item 6? This is the item we want?
Correct.
Ms. Taylor, all right, we're going to hold item 6, so cool your jets, and then if the specialists could get comfortable and get organized, we'll call it back up again. Let's go from 6 to 5.
I believe number 5 is also an item for the
And let's
captionist.
go to 4.
Okay, this is a good one. This is what I want to get.
Item number 4 is a motion, Smith, Garcetti, Hahn, relative to instructing the Planning Department and the Department of Recreation and Parks and the City Attorney's Office to report on updating the Quimby provisions of the LA Municipal Code and the city's public recreation plan.
Hello.
Yeah. Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Alan Bell, Planning Department staff. Last December, the committee instructed the Planning Department to come back with a work program to address a comprehensive update of the city's Quimby regulations. There's been a lot of press about this particular issue. We have 3 council motions that are looking at different aspects of this program.
I'm on all of them.
We also have the Controller's Office, and we also have the mayor has instructed the Planning Department to begin the process of updating our Quimby regulations. So what we are proposing today is a work program that will be carried out over 6 months to comply with this direction. We would bundle all the issues that have been addressed by the Controller's Office and these council motions, as well as the mayor's office. And this is really an opportunity to revisit a very important piece of legislation that we haven't taken a look at in over 30 years.
John Quimby.
Very good. I was going to ask that question, but Michael LeGrand said, no trivia questions. Okay,
All right.
got that.
I would have known that.
You did it, I know.
Yes, he told me ahead of time. So at the end of the 6-month work program period, we would be able to present to the City Planning Commission, who would have to adopt this ordinance, a comprehensive overhaul from A to Z of the city's Quimby regulations. The process that we would use to carry out this work program, we would research the best practices for Quimby programs across the state of California and learn from what other communities are doing. We would partner with community stakeholders to see what they are interested in doing, how they can benefit from the update to the Quimby program. We would partner with the council offices, and most importantly, we would partner with the Recreation and Parks Department, which is undergoing the process of creating a master plan for parks and a community needs assessment. If so directed by the council, our proposed work program, which we're recommending for approval today, would address 5 main issues, and I'd like to touch on each of those very briefly. The first issue is apartments and condominiums.
Right.
The Quimby, which is a state law, only applies to subdivisions. It does not apply to rental apartments. It does not apply to condominium conversions.
Right.
But yet we know that these developments create an impact on parks
Right.
the same as new condominiums do.
Right.
So we would not be able to adopt these regulations under the authority of the Quimby Act,
Right.
but under AB 1600, the
Right.
State Mitigation Fee Act, the city would be able to adopt regulations imposing fees on apartments, new apartments, and condominium conversions.
So they wouldn't be Quimby.
They would not be considered Quimby. And if we did that, we would have to comply with the Mitigation Fee Act, and basically, we would just simply have to establish a reasonable relationship between the need for parks and the type of development on which the
Right.
fee is imposed, and that, quite frankly,
Would be
that's
easy.
not going to be very difficult.
Right.
Again, the thinking is that these developments, which contribute to the need for parks,
On fees
therefore they should share in the cost of providing them.
for the apartments. That's my idea.
The second issue that our proposed work program would address is the issue of fee credits.
Right.
The Quimby program allows developers, as an alternative to paying a Quimby fee,
Right.
to get credits for high-intensity developments or
Right.
credits for low-intensity developments.
Right.
Right now, in the code, is specified at $5 a square foot
Right.
for high intensity and $2.50 a square foot for low intensity, and those haven't been updated since 1981.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah.
I know we were thinking about possibly upping the credits, is that
Right.
Okay, have we ever looked at the categories? I find that fascinating that the high intensity, you get, for instance, you would get more credit for a shuffleboard court than a soccer field.
I think we absolutely need to look at those
Yeah,
categories.
I would think, I would rather give a developer an incentive to build a soccer field than a shuffleboard court.
Right.
But just to tell you, the length of when this is, shuffleboard
Was big.
was big back then. This is 30 years.
Well, we're getting a lot of good data from the Parks Master Plan and the Community Needs Assessment.
Yeah,
So I mean, I think we can ask the community what they want to see
Right.
on-site in developments and what they
And
want to
then-
see in parks, and we can take that into consideration. I
Right.
think also there's an opportunity here, if we do it right, to really create high-quality residential developments, so that we really raise the quality of life that we're going to be seeing in apartments, and then also incentivize some of the kinds of programs we really want to see now, green roofs, community parks. Those are things that are on the agenda for the city of Los Angeles, and these are things that we can address through this kind of a re-engineering of the fee credit
Right.
system.
could those fees ever be, are those categories flexible, or is that, I mean, you know what I mean? For instance, I know in
Any department staff wants to join in.
a lot
come up here.
of my areas of my council district are losing places for kids to play ball.
Right.
You know, whereas there might be other parts of the city who would rather have a shuffleboard cart. In other words, like you said, if you could do a needs assessment on what a particular community values
Right.
more, then could those fees ever be, do you know what I mean? Or do they have to be set in stone?
I don't think they have to be set in stone. I mean, one of the things that we can do to provide more flexibility would be
Yeah.
to adopt guidelines rather than having it. Every time you want to change a code or an ordinance, it takes this long, drawn-out process. It's much easier to adopt guidelines
Right.
that are flexible and
then
can be
how would that-
responsive.
How would that work?
I think the Planning Commission could adopt guidelines. The Planning Commission has adopted guidelines, for example,
Right. But
for
then how would that-
landscaping.
But how would that actually work as the project moved through the process?
You would give discretion to the Recreation and Parks Department to have flexibility in deciding from the menu of items that would be on the guidelines, which one should be applied and which one shouldn't be applied. So you would give administrative discretion to Recreation and Parks, within certain parameters, of course, but if you want to build in that flexibility through guidelines, I mean,
Right.
you're going to have to
Okay.
empower Recreation and Parks to make those decisions.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have some more items you'd like to add to that? You got to 1, 2?
Yeah, just a few more.
Sure.
Because these are all the issues that have come up in the motions.
Right.
Service radii is a big issue. And the problem here is where you can spend the money. And right now, you're limited to spending the money within a mile, 1 to 2 miles of where it's collected. And that has really hamstrung the department's ability to spend the money. Right now, Recreation and Parks is looking at expanding it so that we still have a relationship between the development and the park that's going to benefit that development. Can we go further out and still maintain that reasonable relationship principle that we would have to comply with under the Mitigation Fee Act and under the Quimby Act? So I think based upon the results from Recreation and Parks study, we can amend the public recreation plan to provide more flexibility in those service radiuses.
Right.
And we can do that also in the code amendment itself. And I think also it would be important to provide more flexibility, not have such an ironclad set of service standards in the code,
Right.
because then you fence yourself out from making decisions where you get on the margins. And there are other communities that have flexible criteria so that you're not always going to be administratively hamstrung by the regulations. Something that we can look at, something that we can do,
Right.
so that we can still maintain a constitutional muster, but that we also provide flexibility for the department.
Right. One more,
Very good.
can I have one more thing?
Okay.
Yes, you can. Do you want, let me just ask a question. If you want to let him complete his report and then answer, or you want to go in between each thing he
I
says?
just have two more
What's
issues.
better for you, Madam Hahn?
You know me, I just like to like.
All right,
Right
she
in.
likes.
I
to
don't-
All right, good, you're right.
Feel free to.
Are you on fee deferral? Have you-
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we look at that too closely? Because
I think so.
It seems to me, it seems very short-sighted. Yes, we're trying to encourage affordable housing.
Right.
But we also know that there is still, even people that are able to afford affordable housing, there is a great need for parks and recreation facilities. Almost, that's a very underserved community. So it seems to me we in the city have given a lot of incentives for affordable housing.
Right.
Seems to me, this one, where we're actually allowing them to defer their Quimby fees, again, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right.
Because what we really believe is everybody also deserves, a park nearby or recreational facility. So, I mean, I can see maybe the senior deferral maybe, or the handicap deferral, but, I think affordable housing doesn't make sense to say you don't have to pay into providing park space.
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to look at alternatives and then see what the impacts are.
Okay.
I mean, we could look at best practices in other cities. Glendale has a whole range of different options. For example, in their program, they don't have either, one option A or option B. They have a whole range of different options.
Right.
So we could look at those, provide more flexibility within our code. I think the message is that we need to introduce throughout this whole overhaul much more flexibility in
Right.
terms of policy, and then much more flexibility in terms of execution,
Right.
so that we
because I
don't
think
get hamstrung.
Yeah, because I also think we ought to, as a city, we've come up with a policy of where we want to get to in terms of, we just heard a whole presentation yesterday on how park poor, the city is, and the places in the city that are,
Gentleman who gave it here.
oh, there he is, Mr.
We're the most park poor
Yeah.
major city in the U.S.
That was great information, so, but this Quimby fee policy is counterproductive to that idea in many instances, and that idea of where we want parks and how we want to, have the resources to build them and maintain them. And it kind of is counter to that. So let's make sure, we want flexibility, but ultimately as a city, we have set forth a policy about parks in the city, and we want everything we do to sort of support that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we need to take a look at those issues, and that's what we would do. The final issue that I think that we really need to focus in on is this issue of dedication. One of the problems I think that Recreation and Parks is experiencing is, once we get the money, what do we do with it? It's very hard for the city to go out and identify parcels to purchase, and then when anyone gets wind of the fact that the city is perhaps in the market for buying it, then they jack up the price. So it's much more advantageous if you can get the land at the get-go, have the dedication from the developer at the beginning, rather than getting a fee and then putting the burden on the city to go out and hunt and buy a parcel.
Right.
So right now, we don't have a way to really incentivize providing dedication. One of the things I think that the city council needs to take a look at is, should we require dedication for very large projects? So I think that's one of the options that need to be taken a look at, put on the table, and debated in this work program.
I like that idea.
Anyway, so that kind of concludes my presentation. I really see this as an opportunity to create a model program
I do too.
for Los Angeles, something that all of Los Angeles can be proud of, that can really address the needs. We're a rapidly growing city. If we're going to make density livable, we have to provide parks. We know that we can't stop growth, but in order to make that growth
Right.
and preserve the quality of life that people have become accustomed to, this is a great opportunity to do that. The Planning Department, in partnership with Recreation and Parks, we're ready to carry out this work program, and so we recommend that you endorse this today, and we'll get started right away.
Thank you very much. Alan, I have a couple questions. Anything to add, Ms. Hahn?
Not now, but if I think about it, I'll just.
You just
bust
come
it.
right in. All right, good. One thing I want to know, if we could use existing Quimby funds for LA City school sites, and what would that affect? Is there any relationship that we could add? There's a very strong movement, People for Parks, to try to have joint use projects throughout the city. They own the public, it's all the same public investment. So if you could address that on the public schools issue, can you look at that?
I mean,
And also think, in your
Okay,
study.
we can
And
address
also, I
that.
think we should reach out for, make a notice that all staff, Madam Clerk, when this is heard, we should invite all staff, because this is very important. And the better work we do in the beginning will make it for easier at the end. Come into an early meeting to understand what we're looking at, because we hope within 6 to 8 months you come back with some opportunity for us to change that. So if you could prepare for me, Madam Clerk, a little notation to all council, co-signed by Ms. Hahn, that will express what we're trying to do on this issue here, and ask that their planning deputy and our park deputy come to that. I do believe, which is interesting, and I see a lawyer over there, you didn't make me think of it, Mark, but Probably between 1960 and 1975, every apartment building in the city that was built had a pool in it. And then lawyers got involved, because of accidents or something like that, and there's less pools, there's less,
Right.
and then on the other thing, then they max out on the building of the site, and there's no open space, because sometimes there was actual indoor recreation in the interior of the property, not inside the apartments or anything like that. I'm talking about the area where the pool is or where the open space and that. So I think there's a dichotomy there, just to remember. In our history, I truly believe this, there weren't smart thinkers as the city grew 227 years ago from its 28.5 square miles to its expanded. But they also felt that everybody had a front yard and a backyard. Well, not everybody has a front yard and backyard anymore, and there's more and more less neighborhoods. Because I really think, why do you get 70,000 people in Central Park in New York to come and rally for something? And here in Los Angeles, where we have much better weather, we don't get the rally. We get the rally when there's a development, up a canyon that is going to affect a small number of people that try to save something. But I truly believe it's because most, even in the generations that went before us, from the 20s on up, there's a front yard and a backyard. Front yard and backyard, we're going into different sized buildings, so we must kind of focus on that and look for that. And the joint use is real important, and to look at the history of that. So I certainly appreciate, Mr. Bell, your 5-point discussion there, and I think maybe others may have something to add, so be open when we put you together. And Ms. Hahn has a thought for something else. Push your button so you can speak there. Okay.
Could one of the things you look at be the possible use of Quimby funds for maintenance of existing parks? Is that something?
I mean, that's going to be a difficult issue.
Is it?
I mean,
We would have to change state law. Because I think that's a problem too.
right.
And in fact, even within the mile radius, I mean, you could better spend that money sometimes on the maintenance of existing parks, because we know recreation parks resources are very, very stretched thin, and it seems to me, again, the intent of the intent of Quimby was that people would have parks to enjoy and recreate, and part of that has to be maintaining them.
I think one of the options we can also take a look at, especially if a developer is going to dedicate land, we might be able to enter into an agreement, a maintenance easement, so that the developer would agree to maintain the property, but it would still be available for public use.
Right.
Developers might be looking for bonuses or incentives under that type of a scenario to offset the financial costs that they would incur for maintaining that. But it's something that I think that we could research to see whether this has worked in other cities and whether that's a model that we could import into Los Angeles.
Right. I think the Wilshire Green, which is out behind the Wilshire Courtyard on 8th Street, was that type of model where they did that.
How many staff members do you have working on this?
I have a half of a staff person, but
I know. Do you need more? Do you need more resources, more staff? What do you need to do this?
You may now, since Los Alamos isn't being processed there.
I honestly think that we can handle this. I think if we work smart, we can do this.
Okay, because I think this is really important, and I think it will generate more revenue at a time when we're trying to find new sources of revenue. I think this report needs to be done quickly and as efficiently as possible.
Yeah, and at the same time, too, we want to make sure that the money that's there, that we did it correctly, and that we're not holding money that people have. Like, there's a large fire hydrant fund that the city's accumulated money for over the years, but they have never put in the fire hydrants. That looks pretty not as effective, and I'm not calling out the fire hydrant fund, but that's an example. The last time I checked, which was some years ago, it was a very large fund, and I haven't seen all the fire hydrants out, but we'll deal with that later. We're dealing with Quimby now, we're dealing with parks, and if you could listen to a couple of public comment cards here. Jacob Berger from Edgewood Place in Mid-City, and Robert Garcia. 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Jacobberger. I'm on the Mid-City West Community Council, but speaking on my own behalf. I appreciate your work.
See you tomorrow morning. The meeting at the Neighborhood Council meeting for our neighbor leadership of Wilshire. You're invited.
Okay. Sure, I'll be there.
Good.
I have an issue about extending the service radius, because, as you all know, you're putting density and asking neighborhoods to accept density and accept the burden, and I think it's really important that the benefits, in terms of the Quimby fees, stay in the immediate area. And I recognize the problem of, the expense of acquiring land, that it's very difficult to bring parks to the people, but maybe an alternative is bringing people to the parks and using some of that money to create bike boulevards that connect the neighborhoods that don't have parks, provide a safe way for the kids who live in those neighborhoods, the seniors who live in that neighborhood, to actually get to the parks, to get to the schools, to get to the libraries. It seems to me that would be an appropriate use of the money.
Very creative.
And, would keep the benefit of those Quimby fees from the development in the neighborhood where they are generated. Thank you.
What's your neighborhood park? Queen Anne?
I don't even know what my neighborhood park is.
You're on
Because I just
Edgewood
moved. I'm on Edgewood between Hauser and
Right.
Cochran, so
Right.
probably,
Where is
I think Queen
I go
Anne.
up to LACMA, which is a county park.
Right, it's you look artistic.
Right.
Yeah, urban lights. Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it. We'll get you the invitation for tomorrow. This is Robert Garcia. Thank you again for 2 days in a row, Robert.
Thank you very much, and again, thank you for allowing us to do the presentation yesterday. That was quite an honor, and
That was good.
and we're very impressed with how engaged the council members were. And I'll speak very briefly. We're very impressed with the presentation by the City Planning Department and the process going forward for the next 6 months. And we do ask that you include the following in your considerations in this study. First of all, it's not really a question of reforming Quimby, it's how do we fund parks in Los Angeles. And as he suggested, it's not just about the Quimby Act, but other possibilities are the Mitigation Fee Act. There are also possibility of putting a local park bond measure on the ballot, and there are over $54 billion in infrastructure bond funds available statewide, so all those things need to be considered. Second, we absolutely agree that you need to abandon the geographical limitation of 1 to 2 miles, and also keeping Quimby fees within the city council district where they were generated. There's just no reasonable basis for those. Third, there should be a need standard, and we think the need standard should be based, number one, on park poverty, whether measured in terms of acres of parks per 1,000 residents, and number two, economic poverty, whether it's the federal poverty line or 3 times the federal poverty line, or even the economic misery index that the county health department came up with recently in assessing child obesity. Fourth, consider charging not just apartments, but commercial developments as well, because commercial developments do use up land. The workers can benefit from a park at lunch and after work and so on. And sixth or fifth, incorporate affirmative compliance with the civil rights laws which require equal access to public resources, including parks. And my final point is this: there are $129 million in unused fees already. The city says they don't know what to do with it. We know what to do with it. Put in a park at Skid Row, and also bring in the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. They can use those funds right away to create parks for the city of Los Angeles. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I want to know, Jan Perry is looking aggressively to find locations for parks in the central part of the downtown district east of Maine, and looking at that. Thank you for your ideas, and we'll add all that into the discussion, and we'll go from there. So let's, what should we do on this one here, Madam Clerk? What's the best suggestion you have? I send it to full council for approval, and then, but I want a midterm report, like in about 180 days, or not 180 days, that's 6 months, 90 days. Is that all right? We'll go to clerk, we'll go to council, we'll talk about it in council just to get everybody on the thought process. And I'd like to ask that Mr. Muckery or Mr. Scholl or whoever from Reckitt Parks wants to come and speak to it. I know it's been their frustration in wanting to help the constituencies that use open space in parks, give you an opportunity to speak about it. So send it to council. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That's number 5.
Okay.
Okay, number 4.
That completes item number 4. Would you like to move to item number 5?
5 and 6.
Item number 5 is a joint report from the Department of Transportation and the Department on Disability in response to a motion, Gruel-Labange, on the adequacy of transportation services for individuals with disabilities.
And just one other thing, as staff leaves the building, if they could also develop a map of what region of the city has the most optimum park system because of smart thinking, that has it. I know the Wilshire area grew so fast, so there's great gaps between Chateau and Queen Anne and West Wilshire Park, etc. But I'd like an example. For us to attack this problem, we should see where all the parks are and get a model so we could sell it to the people, because you are going to be proposing taking dollars out of one neighborhood that maybe has it to another neighborhood that doesn't, and have a standard to look at it, so it's good to have that visual. I'm back on the record. Thank you.
It's not taking it from my neighborhood. I'll just say that right now.
Okay.
Good afternoon, council members Labange, council member Hahn. My name is John Fong with the Department of Transportation.
And I'm Mitch Pomerantz, Department on Disability.
We also have with us the general manager for ASI, and that's Shelley Verinder, and Arun Prim, the government liaison. They're in the audience behind us. The council had asked us to determine whether the city is adequately providing services, transportation services to individuals with disabilities. Department of Transportation has conferred with the Department of Aging, the Department on Disability, for our City Ride program, and have found no actions necessary to change the program. We currently, with our bus pass program, are providing 12 million trips. With our City Ride Dollar Ride program, 800,000 trips. With our taxi program, we are providing 800,000 trips. And with our Dollar Ride, we are providing 200,000 trips annually. And we are only getting approximately 60 complaints a year, which is a very low amount. However, the Department on Disability does have comments on the audit that was performed on ASI.
Mitch?
Thank you. Our responsibility was to thoroughly review the audit report of access services called for by the MTA board. That report, dated January 22nd, 2008, revealed no findings but produced recommendations that could enhance the program. DoD believes that the recommendations for operational improvements, while potentially beneficial, do not adequately address many of the policy issues that DoD has concerning overall ASI service during the past several years. This belief is predicated on numerous complaints made by ASI riders at meetings of the City Commission on Disability and to staff of our department. Notwithstanding our reservations, it is our sincere hope that ASI management and staff will move expeditiously to implement the recommendations contained in the audit report. As such, DoD recommends that the council request that in 6 months, the Department on Disability provide a post-audit update report relative to constituent complaints and the quality of services provided by Access Service Incorporated. We have several concerns that we'd like to express, but I'll wait and see if you'd like to hear those. Otherwise,
Mitch, why don't you tell us the concerns? Because I think it's very important. And John, do you know the concerns?
Yes.
Good. So I want you to say like a 1-2 sentence concern, and I want to hear John saying we're fixing it, or we understand it, or we need resources to fix it, okay?
I wish John could fix them.
Yeah.
But,
all right, but let's hear it.
All right. Let's see. The auditor, the organization that was selected, TCBA, was the same organization that just concluded an audit of care evaluators, the organization which conducts certifications to determine eligibility in Orange County. they received a clean bill of health. And our concern is that there wasn't an arm's length relationship. The relationship was one based on previous experience.
Mitch, let me just ask John.
We don't take the same view.
Okay, good. All right, keep going, Mitch.
There is no indication in the audit report that survey results were tabulated by type of disability or that any effort was made to conduct either of the two surveys based upon a broad cross-section of disability categories. This is important because we believe that, well, based on the folks who came to commission meetings over the last 2 years, most complaints are registered by people with mobility or sensory disabilities. They're the ones who are having the issues, and while they, I think, represent a minority of ASI riders, their concerns should have been taken into consideration, and there is no indication, we don't have any notion as to numbers of persons with sensory or mobility disabilities that were included in the survey data.
Hold on, Mitch. John, what's the question and answer on that one?
Regarding that, the Department of Disability really did not approach ASI to include these things, and certainly I would believe ASI, but they'd have to speak for themselves, I would believe they would have included whatever would have been suggested to them.
But do you have you're a professional, you're with the Department of Transportation. Do you review these complaints, or does someone in the office?
Yes, we do, and they are complaints. Some of them are valid and some of them are not.
Okay.
And
ones that are valid, you try to change it, correct it, amend.
And ASI certainly is making efforts to correct any of the discrepancies that they do have.
Okay, good, but you get a public record of it if you wanted to. You know how many complaints you get.
Yes, they do receive plenty of complaints, and that they are acting on them. There are procedures that they do.
Not a stale activity, they're acting on it.
Yes, they do.
Mitch, go ahead.
While numerous recommendations for improvement are made in the audit report, which are agreed to by ASI, it makes no specific commitment, and there is no provision for oversight or follow-up either by the Inspector General's office or the Metro Board of Directors. Without these, there is no guarantee that any of the recommendations will be given serious consideration. Further, there are no specific benchmarks or timetables for implementation of the recommendations contained in the audit report.
Okay. John?
Regarding that, follow-up is always a good idea. However, I certainly believe ASI will comply with the recommendations as they indicated they will. And in future correspondence, they certainly can inform us as to what time frame they expect to make the changes they will be performing.
Very well. Mitch?
Well, those are the key ones, and while I know Mr. Fong has worked with ASI, has been a member of their board, all we have to go on is 2 years' worth of ongoing concerns expressed by the disability community. And we believe that it would be appropriate for DOD to have the opportunity to report back on a regular basis, to monitor complaints, to get input, and to keep this committee and the council appraised of the progress. In essence, serving unofficially as an entity to make sure that the audit report recommendations are indeed implemented.
Will, does DOT, Department of Transportation staff, ever ride out on this service, like in plain clothes?
No, we have not.
Do you think that's maybe a good idea, just to make sure that, you know, and I'm just
We
telling you,
have-
the contractor, I think for me, as a person of the chair, I'm speaking directly to those who have the city contract, I would hope our inspectors, not only for the safety of the motoring public who are in your vehicle, but also for the service to them, that from time to time, let it be known that there will be an inspection, known or not known, on how people are treated, how they're done in this. I think that would be important to do that, so that you could say there was a, not a spontaneous, but anonymous quarterly or semi-annually inspection. You found that the service was on time, prompt, had to deal with LA traffic, so they were a little late to some things, but did the best they could, always parked close to the curb, and didn't play the music too loud in the car.
Well, we certainly can do that, and I'm sure ASI would be amenable to allowing us to do that.
You're good with that, because I think it's important to have somebody see it and fight for the people who get the service. Here we sit in City Hall, and someone's depending on this service. The Department of Disability is trying to advocate for those who have the greatest challenges. Your job is to make sure the public works well. The contractor is trying to pursue their dream as an entrepreneur to serve under this contract, but I think it does need a little oversight. So with that, Ms. Hahn, I know Ms. Taylor would like to speak here, and I know Ms. Taylor has an assistant today. Madam Clerk, what's the best way to take public comment here? And if we need a hand mic, or does the assistant speak, or does Joan Taylor speak? So we're going to get it figured out right now. I don't know if we have a hand mic. Take a cord all the way over, yeah. Good job. It's like Libby Dole. Remember that? She walked down in there.
Yeah, that was the first time.
Yeah, that's what she made her name on.
Yeah, you're right.
You know. Ms.
Thank you
Jones.
for the microphone. I will now be able to know what answer to my questions. I would like to bring to the attention of the committee that, first of all, there are really no senior organizations as in the past. Seniors for Action, which met in the Valley, had their last meeting April 05. The only senior organization I know, and of which I am a member, is Alliance of Retired Americans. They meet monthly at the Claude Pepper Senior Center in District 10. But as you can see, this is not at all representative of the city as a whole. I would like to also bring this to your attention. I gave to each committee member the unanimous vote on the motion by Mid-City West Community Council to allow us seniors and disabled to be able to buy a second $84 taxi book quarterly. Before 2006, we did have this privilege. If we who had special needs had to have extra taxi trips or extra transportation, we could buy that second book. That was taken away from us in either 2005 or 2006. And this motion asks for restoration. And I would hope that that would be given attention. The other thing I would bring to your attention now is that I have always gotten the quarterly $84 taxi.
We're going to get an
book
announcement here in a moment. Just a small moment, please.
Oh, pardon me.
I have your attention, please. I have your attention, please. We will be testing the fire life safety system. Please disregard any alarms you see or hear. Once again, we will be testing the fire life safety system. Please disregard any alarms you see or hear. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Taylor, continue. That was a general announcement by the office of the building that they're testing the system, so disregard it. Continue if you would, Ms.
The
Taylor.
remark I would like to make is that I have always gotten the quarterly $84 taxi book by mail through the Department of Transportation. I have never known or received any survey, any question of how I use this book, or whether we need more, or any complaint I might have. And I don't fault John Fong for this lack. Money is money, and there may not be resources for this, but we have no complaint mechanism throughout the city to register complaints with the Department of Transportation.
John, answer that question.
She certainly has ways of communicating her complaints, and frankly, how many times have you called me on the phone? Certainly once a week or so, as well as submitting it directly to our department.
How many years has it been going on? Has she been calling you?
Many years.
Joan Taylor used to call me. Remember that, Joan? Joan, you could speak now. Remember when you used to call me? You called,
May I speak?
I know.
I would like to compliment John Fong.
That's what I got.
Pardon me.
John. Okay, good,
I'm
that's a
able to
comment.
speak.
You're able to speak.
I would like to compliment,
Yeah. You want to read that, or that's what your associate's doing there? Thank you, Joan Taylor, for the nice compliment that you've given John Fong.
I will speak. I would like to compliment John Fong for his help through the years. I'm sorry for the fact that my disability causes inconvenience here.
No problem.
But when I say we have no mode for complaint, I'm speaking for the average rider. Yes, I will make the effort. I will spend an hour to come down and another hour to go home
Right.
on public transportation to hear these complaints. But how many seniors are able to do this? How many disabled have the physical strength to do it?
Right.
Not many.
All right, let me ask you a question, John, and I have not been in these vehicles. Is there any handout?
Yes, there is actually in our user's guide. You can call up 380-4343. There are phone numbers that in our user guides where
But is
individuals
there
can
anything
complain.
handout, meaning, let's say I get a guide, I don't read a guide. Did you read every book you got in college, Ms. Hunt?
Cliff Notes.
Cliff Notes, so you can go to the Cliff Notes, very good. Okay, so do you have a John Fong Notes? How's that? You get a little, is there something like in the slot, like you see at some public counters in the city or desk at police stations, if you have a concern or a complaint or a compliment, please fill this out.
We have that on our dash vehicles for all of our services.
How
That they
about
can
these vehicles?
complain on any of our services.
These vehicles too?
On the city ride vehicles, we have complaints that the drivers can provide, complaint
Well, why don't
form.
we go to the patrons, because I think Ms. Taylor brings a point. She's a voice, she comes down here and invests her time, and I would judge it to be fair to everybody, and if anyone wants to speak to it, I don't know, how many complaints have you gotten a year, not on this service, but just citywide? Do you get many complaints at all this?
Not very many at all. Actually, we've only had about 60 a year, which is very low.
60 a year, but that's at least someone's complaining, so that
Yes.
keeps it up. Ms. Taylor?
I would specifically like to ask that the committee and the Department of Transportation try to get a way that we can buy the second $84 taxi book quarterly. That's, again...
Can you make
that's
that happen,
the
John?
issue that I'm bringing to your attention.
It's a matter of funding. How much funding do we wish to provide
Up front.
service?
Right, it's a matter of funding, Ms. Taylor.
Yeah.
Ms. Taylor? Okay, Ms. Taylor.
Can we get rid of some of the $40 a ride or $50 a ride, 50-cent vans from the senior centers and put that money into the less expensive taxi rides by getting the book to the transportation?
Look at the screen. John, answer the question.
She has to understand that the reason why dollar rides work is for those individuals who cannot afford a taxi or the extra. Right now, we provide script enough for an individual to pay $12 in script for a taxi ride. All costs beyond $12, they'd have to pay themselves. Now, if you were to travel 20 miles on a taxi, that'd be pretty expensive. So the dial ride serves those who cannot afford that extra money for that taxi ride.
Have we ever worked with taxi companies to see if there might not be an arrangement with the city of Los Angeles for these, maybe at a discount for some of these?
Some of the taxi companies do. They offer a 10% discount. However, that's still, even if you're given a 10% discount, and it's a $20 or $30 cost, that's a tremendous cost to an individual, versus our dollar rides, for example, will cost them anywhere from 18 cents to about $1 for a ride up to 20 miles. Imagine going on a taxi ride for that. What would that cost be? So our dollar ride serves a certain part of the community
Right.
who can't afford that extra money for the
In an area.
dollar ride.
All right, Ms. Taylor, I'm going to ask you to conclude your public comments, if you would. Take as much time as you need, but any questions left?
We are not taking $20 taxi trips. The minimum really that you should give a taxi driver today with the high cost for maintenance and gasoline would be $7. We pay $2.65 to get in that taxi. Our $84 taxi book gives us one $7 a week taxi ride. That is not at all what we need. We need at least 2, if not 3, of these $7 rides a week.
Ms. Taylor, thank you very much, and thank your associate there who has helped you in this. Madam Clerk, Ms. Hahn, you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I just think, I thank Ms. Taylor. I think she makes very good suggestions, and she should know. So
Right.
I would like for us to work on some of her suggestions.
John, I want you to find a way to make sure, maybe our Council on Aging would be an opportunity, and I know James is still here from our Department of Aging. James, what if we stood out a survey, let's say, and work with the Department of Transportation just on general concerns, a one-page sheet? Are we, in the best of all worlds, if we had more money, we'd like a dial-a-ride in every quarter mile of the city, especially in transit-dependent areas. That being said, for the city systems that we have, what do you think? I need this vote.
Okay.
So we're going to vote on this to move forward. Madam Clerk, recommendation? Okay.
I believe the recommendation is to note and file the report.
Good, we'll hear it in council, just briefly, just to tell. And John, you want to add something?
I believe Department on Disability had another recommendation there.
All right. Mitch?
Our recommendation is that we have an opportunity to come back to you in 6 months' time to monitor complaints that we receive both at our office and at commission meetings, as well as to monitor implementation of the recommendations from the audit report, so that you at least have a notion as to how matters are proceeding.
Okay, number 5 is going on to Transportation Committee. Number 6, we're going to note and file. But I think we'll take Mitch's suggestion, Madam Clerk, if you could note that. Ms. Hahn, you approve affirmative? Yes. So ordered on that. So, but let's say in 6 months get together, but let's have a discussion and take a pulse to see if we're working in the right direction. James, I need your leadership on that.
Okay.
Open the door up. And I wish we all could live like a Scotch. He's doing well right there.
Well, this may be the last time you see him, sir. He's close to retirement. That's why he's sleeping over there.
Wow.
It's real tough to wake him up these days when I have to run up to the front here, so.
Oh, Mitch, how old is the dog?
He's almost 10.
10. Well, I tell you, I think there's nothing, I think it's inspirational when I see you and Scotch walk this city hall. So I think everybody unanimously in this room would like to see us honor Scotch one day in council before his retirement. If we honor good city employees who retire, we should honor Scotch. So would you please keep us posted? I'd like to honor him.
I shall. We're keeping him, so he'll be at home. So.
He'll be at home, but we honor him for full-time duty. He goes
All right.
full-time.
Thank you.
Take that. Good job.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, now we're going backwards again, so we continue number 3. We're at 2.
Item number 2 is a report from the City Administrative Officer relative to an amendment to an agreement with the Heart of Los Angeles Youth in connection with the Lafayette Park project.
Good afternoon, Councilman. Delilah Pucci, Office of the CAO. The proposed amendment would extend the term of the gift agreement with Heart of Los Angeles Youth from December 31st to January 9, 2008. It's necessary to allow the department to remain in compliance with the original terms of the gift agreement. There is no fiscal impact.
No impact.
No, sir.
Good. How big is Lafayette Park?
I have no idea.
Good question. I'm not sure.
I think, what would be a great thing if we could tie Lafayette to MacArthur between 6th and 7th and just make it a large one parcel there. It's a wonderful park. I think if you want an example, and I know those who were here earlier, if you drive by Lafayette Park, it's probably one of the most used areas in the city. So anything we can do to help Lafayette, we're for it. I believe this is in the 1st District?
It is.
Right, so I think we should expedite this. So you're for it?
Definitely.
Definitely, all right, we'll move forward. Affirmative vote. Thank you. Recommend approval. Next item.
Item number 1 is a motion, Rosendahl Weezer, relative to an amendment to an agreement for Proposition K, LA for Kids agreements with the Mar Vista Institute for the Family Center and the At-Risk Youth Center.
All right, who's here to speak to this?
Cheryl Benars of the CLA's office. The motion before you will extend the Prop K grant agreements for the Mar Vista Institute, At-Risk Youth Center, and the Family Center. The steering committee approved the extension on February 28th, and the extension will be until December 31st, 2009. Our office recommends approval.
Great, Mr. Rosendahl's been briefed on it?
I believe he has.
Okay, anyone here for any questions on this? If not, we're going to move it forward to council and approval. Is there any public comment? Did anyone have any public comment? Did you fill out a card? You could come out, come on out. And Ms. Taylor has a, Ms. Taylor, we're going to get you in a moment. You got to fill a card out. So fill it out after you make your card. Make your public comment. Prepare Ms. Taylor if you would. And we approve the last item.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Eddie Boquilla, coordinator with Cal Hispanic Commission on Alcohol and Drug Abuse, partnering up with USC Keck School of Medicine, Psychiatric Department. We're looking forward to putting together a summer health fair sometime in June in Health, and I just wanted to address the board here and see if after the meeting maybe I can speak with someone and pass the flyer out. And we're having our first committee meeting on Tuesday, the 25th at 12 p.m. at one of our satellite offices in Lincoln Heights, which is called East Lake Youth Services. That's all I have.
Yeah, what I would just say to you, you want to target an area. It's your first health fair?
Excuse me?
Is it your first health fair?
It's the first, yeah, being put together.
You know, maybe at like Lincoln Heights, if, I don't know what the street location is, but try to have something within an area. If you try to go too big too soon, it's very difficult. But if you went, let's say at the Lincoln Heights Center, maybe working with the local councilman, get a street closure, put the booths in the street, create festivity so that people would come.
Yes.
So I'll talk to you afterwards, give you some guidance. Thank you for coming down. All right, next public comment comes from Joan Taylor.
Thank you. I would like to add for the Department of Transportation that we have only 30 dial-a-ride vans for the entire city of 3.7 million people. We have 10 in South LA, 10 in the Valley, and 10 in East, West, and downtown LA. May I say a little bit more?
Sure, you got another 140 seconds.
All right. That's only 30 vans for 3.7 million population city. That's not enough. All the rides are gone by 8:20 in the morning at dial-a-ride. I've called and gotten a busy signal time after time. We have only 30 50-cent vans in the city through the senior centers. And these two agencies operate only literally between 9 and 4 in the afternoon. That's not enough. I'm bringing to your attention the fact that we do not have enough transportation. Thank you.
You're 100% right. We don't have enough transportation, but thank you for being a voice, Joan Taylor. Thank your assistant for helping you today. There's no other items before us. It's 3:05, so this meeting for the Arts, Health, and Aging Committee is now adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.